I'm Biddy Nichols with eXp Realty. I interview local small business owners to share with the community the services they have to offer. Today, I'm here with Joe Delk, owner of Delk for Law. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Biddy.
You're welcome. So, how long have you been practicing law?
Oh gosh, what year is it? I'm coming up on 14 years total.
Wow.
I spent 2 years in Charleston, South Carolina, and then moved here. So I've been here for 12 years.
Okay.
12 years.
Wow. Long time to practice law.
That is a long time.
That's exciting.
Yes.
So, what services does Delk for Law offer?
We are not a general practice. It's mostly real estate closings, residential and commercial real estate closings, and then I also do a little bit of business development and criminal law, including traffic tickets.
Oh, okay. And what does a real estate closing attorney do?
The real estate closing attorney is responsible for two things mainly: collecting all of the money and dispersing it in the correct way to pay the realtors, pay homeowners insurance, pay the bank, and then obviously pay the sellers.
Right.
But the other thing we do is prepare all the documents and check what's called marketable title. In other words, we check to make sure that the seller actually owns the property. There's no outstanding judgments on the property. There's no unknown mortgages or debts on the property.
Yeah.
So that the buyers can know they're buying a clean, clear property.
Yeah. Extremely.
And not have to worry about legal problems. Now that we don't deal with whether the roof is leaking or any of those, that's an inspector, an appraisal. But as far as a legal property, that we have to make sure that the sellers can legally transfer that property to the buyer.
All the important process.
Yes.
So, who needs a closing attorney?
In North Carolina, you don't need an attorney to transfer property, but you do have to have an attorney to get title insurance, which is required by banks. So if you're buying a property through a bank or you want to have the assurance that the property can be transferred, you need a closing attorney. The buyer is the one that selects the closing attorney. Typically, the sellers will use us in a limited way as well to save money, but the seller can always get their own attorney.
Right. So they can both be represented by you, both the buyer and the seller.
So in most circumstances, an attorney can't represent two parties in a transaction.
Right.
But in real estate, because everybody wants the transaction to go through and everybody is on the same page and going the same direction, an attorney can represent both the buyer and the seller, but in a limited way. If there's a conflict, if they get in an argument about price or other legal issues come up, then that attorney can't represent both.
Oh, okay. So how much does a closing cost?
That is, but I guess both simple and complicated. The kind of the base price that we charge at Delk for Law is $900 to do a closing, but then you've got kind of some additional fees. You've got wire fees,
yes,
courier fees, and the big kind of unexpected expense is title insurance. That is insurance that covers the transaction, which is required by banks. And for a $300,000 house, it's going to be around $500 or $600 in addition to that. And then there's a scale where it kind of shows what the insurance rate's going to be. But in my opinion, and I realize this is self-serving, but title insurance is very important, and it protects the buyers going forward in the transaction, because you don't want to get 3 years into a house and realize that you don't actually own it.
Right, because that would be terrible.
And the title insurance not only makes sure that transaction happens, but if there's a problem later, that insurance policy covers any problems.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yes.
So, when it comes to estate planning, do you provide simple wills?
I do. That is the one of the things I like to provide for my clients is if it's a complicated will, if it's trusts, if it's a lot of assets. Then I've got some friends in town that do complicated estate planning.
Okay.
But as far as simple wills, just to say where your simple property is going to go to a spouse or to kids, we do provide those.
So important just to have that guarantee for your family after you pass. You do not realize it until you have a loved one that passes and they do not have it. Going through the probate period is hard.
And honestly, one of the most important things, especially with families with kids, is not necessarily the property division, but it's if something happens to both parents, who the guardian is going to be. Because you know, most people have the advantage of two loving families on either side. The last thing you want is the two families to be arguing and fighting over who gets custody of the kids.
Yeah.
And so in a will, that's a best way to name the children go with this person.
Yes, because when you think about simple wills, you think about property. You don't think about your children all the time and who they're going to be left with, especially when they're dealing with so much heartache at one time.
Exactly. Offer discounts for fire and teachers and first responders.
Oh, that's nice. What criminal defense charges do you represent?
I have represented everybody from a speeding ticket up to a couple murder cases. I don't really like doing the big murder cases because those are complicated, but I've represented people from the very simplest charge to the most serious charge.
Wow, so they can come to you no matter what.
Right.
Okay. Do you represent clients in traffic matters?
I do. I represent, there's a lot of people that get speeding tickets going up and down 321. And we get a lot of phone calls asking to represent. I will say that the first question I get asked is, should I just pay the ticket? Again, self-serving, but a lot of times if you just pay the ticket, your insurance goes up. It can affect your license. If it's fast enough, you could lose your license if you just pay it. So it's always worth at least a phone call to a lawyer.
Absolutely, because that's a big deal to not have your license.
And most speeding tickets we could get reduced to, so it doesn't affect license or insurance.
Well, that's good to know. So, do you have any events coming up?
Any events coming up? We've got a realtor learning opportunity coming up on the 8th, which is I guess a Thursday evening, where the realtors get together and we socialize. The realtors come here and they get socialized, and then we've got a title insurance attorney giving a presentation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's an educational opportunity for realtors in town, but also gives them an opportunity to socialize and get to know each other because they're dealing with each other day to day.
Yes, and that's so important to be able to meet someone that you might work with.
Exactly.
So, what counties do you serve?
I can be in any of the 100 counties in North Carolina, but I stay primarily in Caldwell and Burke and Catawba.
Okay. And what is the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact the office is to call our phone number, which is on our website. The best way to get a hold of me usually is an email. I'm terrible at answering phone calls and returning voicemails, but I will always respond to an email.
Oh, well, Joe, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you having this interview with me.
Thank you. I really did enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.